Well, today I'm going to read a chapter which I titled Nikkita Kruschev and the Maple Trees. As he had done before, early in the summer of 1959, Nikkita Kruschev, chief of the Council of Ministers of the USSR, met with Aunt Eleanor at Valkill Cottage. 4 weeks before his arrival, representatives from the Secret Service arrived at Valkill to arrange for the protection of Mr. Kruschev during his visit to Hyde Park. The National Guard and the Secret Service took their jobs seriously, especially since the USSR was the only world power that could threaten the United States at the time. And there might be people who would like to eliminate the leader. The Secret Service arrived at 10:30 a.m., but it took them half an hour to get to the house from the street. The driveway is only about a quarter of a mile long, but the men looked at every tree and rock and possible hiding place in the adjacent fields before consulting with one another and then knocking on my aunt's door. My aunt took off her glasses, set them on top of the pile of mails she'd been signing, and made her way down to the front door. She thought many people deserved to be protected by the service, but she had always excluded herself from among that number. I am certain those assigned to protect her frequently despaired of their assignment when she disappeared into the crowd at Grand Central Station, striding purposefully along, carrying her own suitcase. The plainclothes lieutenant was polite. He invited my aunt to go for a little walk with him, and she obliged. They went together through the pine trees and across the rickety bridge to the meadow and horse pasture beyond. My aunt told me of their exchange, which went something like this. "Now these trees here in the meadow," he began. "Yes, aren't they beautiful? They're maple trees. My husband and I planted some of them years ago. Well, I have to tell you that they're a great security hazard. Anyone could come to this pasture and meadow through the woods over there and just lurk behind one of these trees with a rifle and take a shot at Mr. Kruschev coming up the drive. What do you propose to do about it?" "Why, ma'am, we would be much obliged if you'd just take down those trees. It would make our job a lot easier." "That's absurd," she said. "But Mrs. Roosevelt, our job is of international importance. It's up to the United States to protect the heads of foreign countries. And you know yourself this is a particularly difficult assignment. I know you will do your job, and you'll do it very well, of course. But you may not harm one of my trees. You may put a special agent behind every one of them if you think it necessary, but my landscape stays the same until old age or a hurricane changes it. I think you'll find that Mr. Kruschev will come accompanied by a sufficient number of his own bodyguards to lighten your responsibility a bit." Mr. Kruschev and his wife indeed arrived surrounded by so many large black-clothed bodyguards that it was quite impossible to get them all into Valkill Cottage. Aunt Eleanor invited half of them to eat their lunch in the playroom across the driveway, and Mr. Kruschev once again seemed astonished that the First Lady of the world lived in an obscure cottage way off in the woods, without a guard of any sort to protect her. She didn't even have a household staff to properly serve her guests. And the trees, which meant so much to her, some of which she and Uncle Franklin had planted when they were newly married, still shade the meadow.